The village square is crowded with people and the king's voice echoes across the crowd. My name is Ola and my life changed the day the king made his decree. He sought a bride, and the whispers of his messengers carried his command to every corner of the village. Every maiden was to present herself, for the king's eye would choose his queen. I'm a simple village girl with soft features. I glanced nervously at my best friend Kem. A young farmer, Udoka, close by looked at me, his face shadowed by worry. As the words sank in, I felt my stomach tighten. I wasn't ready to leave my home, my simple life, or Udoka. I stood by the riverbank, the golden sunset reflecting off the water. Udoka came to me that evening, his hands trembling as he held mine. Ola, he said, his voice thick with emotion, you can't let them take you to the palace. I pulled my hands away, tears glistening from my eyes. I wanted to promise him, but how could I? Who was I to defy the king? The weight of tradition pressed down on me like a heavy cloak. The village women stand in a line, adorned in their finest dresses, while the king and his advisors inspect each one. I stood among them, my heart pounding like a drum. When the king's eyes met mine, I knew my fate was sealed. This one, he said, and the crowd erupted in cheers. Udoka watches from the shadows, his fist clenched. His eyes burn with a mixture of despair and determination. As the crowd celebrated, I caught a glimpse of Udoka's face. It was the last straw. I felt my heart break in two. I was escorted into the palace, my awful gaze taken in the splendor, golden chandeliers, silk curtains, and lavish banquets. The palace was beautiful, but it was not home. Every step I took felt like a chain around my soul. I smiled for the king, but my heart belonged to Udoka. I sit by a window at night, staring at the distant village lights. The king enters, his demeanor warm but commanding. The king was kind, but his kindness couldn't fill the void in my chest. You will grow to love this life, he said. I nodded, but in my heart, I knew the truth. Udoka sits in his small hut, his eyes red with tears. He clutches a carved wooden heart he made for me. Udoka said I can't let her go. Not without a fight. Ola is my everything, and I know the palace walls can't hold her spirit. Udoka met a group of elders in a dimly lit hut. They whisper of forbidden rituals and secret paths to the palace. He knew the risks but didn't care. He said if the gods are watching, let them judge me. Udoka found a way to me, braving the wrath of the king and the gods. Every moment with him felt stolen, but it was worth the risk. The palace guards discover footprints in the garden. Suspicion begins to grow. Our love became a dangerous game. Every whisper, every glance felt like it could be our last. A jealous court advisor spied on Udoka and I, and goes kneeling before the king, his face twisted with malice as he revealed the secret meetings between Udoka and myself. I should have known our love couldn't remain hidden forever. That night, as Udoka and I whispered promises under the stars, the king's guards descended upon us like shadows in the dark. Udoka was dragged away, fighting against the guards, while I screamed and begged for mercy. The king watches from the balcony, his expression cold and betrayed. The king's fury was unlike anything I'd ever seen. His kindness turned to stone, and his words became weapons. You dare betray me in my own palace, he thundered. I had no words, only tears. Udoka was brought before the village elders and the king, shackled and bruised. The villagers gathered to watch the spectacle, their whispers filling the air. Udoka with bruises said, they called this a trial, but it was a sentence. The king's voice was heavy with anger as he declared Udoka guilty of treason. And his crime was loving me. I rushed into the court and fell on my knees before the king. I begged for his life, willing to sacrifice everything, my title, my freedom, even my life, if it meant Udoka could live. But the king's heart was hardened. The elders deliberate, some looking sympathetic while others nod in agreement with the king. A fierce storm erupts as the verdict is announced. Thunder rolls and lightning strikes a sacred tree in the village square. The gods had been silent, but not anymore. The storm was a sign, a message from the ancestors. The village elders froze, their faces pale with fear. An elder steps forward, trembling, and declares that the gods demand the king reconsider his actions. It was a miracle. The king's anger gave way to doubt, and for the first time, he hesitated. The king summoned me in the palace gardens, his expression weary but softened. The storm had shaken him, but it was my words that finally reached his heart. I told him the truth, that love cannot be commanded, and that a kingdom built on fear will crumble. The king released Udoka, granting him freedom and lifting the charges. Udoka said, "I thought I would never see the sun again." But as he stepped out of the dungeon, I was there. He told me that my smile is brighter than any light. Udoka and I stood before the village, our hands clasped together as the king addressed the crowd. The king made a decree that day, but it wasn't one of power or pride. He declared that love would no longer be bound by tradition and that every heart should be free to choose its own path. Udoka and I returned to our simple life in the village, our love stronger than ever. The king watched us from afar, a bittersweet smile on his face. Our story became legend, a tale passed down through generations. It wasn't just about love, but about courage, the courage to defy the odds and fight for what truly matters. Some children playing in the village, elders telling Udoka and me stories by the fire. We didn't set out to change the world, but sometimes love has a way of doing that. Our tale became a beacon of hope, reminding everyone that even the strongest traditions can bend to the power of the heart. And so, our love story ended where it began, in the village, under the open sky. But in every heart it touched, it lives on. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. See you in the next video.